What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Justin from Justin Paul Sports. We are here for week 2 of our SEC preview that's going to go on for 4 weeks. Last week we did LSU, and actually I can't remember who we did last week, but I know today we're doing Kentucky, we're doing Tennessee, we're doing Vanderbilt, we're doing Arkansas. So if you like the Hogs, then you just got to go. I know you like that sound. Was pretty impressed that I could do that, but I can holler like a pig. But speaking of hollering, let me bring on my co-host with the most, who does all the graphics, all the work, all the behind-the-scenes stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Bobby from Bobby's Big Board. How are you doing today, Bobby?
What is going on, guys? Another week of SEC ball talk. I am excited. Maybe a lot of these teams, I don't know if I'm a big fan of, but some exciting players to go over. And honestly, we've got some interesting teams that, are any of these teams going to be good? Are all of these teams going to be good? They're all kind of like tweeners except for Arkansas. But yeah, we'll go all over all of those teams, and I'm excited to talk about them for sure.
Well, before we get started with that, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a bit of breaking news going on here in the football world. This is our college football preview, but I don't know if you heard this, Bobby, but a little tidbit of NFL news here today. Ben Devine, who works for Chicago, he's been doing Chicago sports since 2009. He's pretty accurate with the reporting on what goes on with the team. Big Bears fan. Says, and I quote, "A finalized stadium deal is expected tomorrow with the Chicago Bears landing in Indiana. Per source, Indiana is so heavily incentivizing the deal as to include a name change with Indiana in the team name when the stadium completes." So that being said, what are they going to be? The Indiana Bears of Chicago? It's just absolutely a clown show what's going on there. But when your team is when your Soldier Field is owned by the Chicago Park District and you can't maintain your old field and do things along that, that's kind of things that happen. So just a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of where they're at. I think that's where they're at. I don't think that the Bears would like to move away from Chicago because they've been there for so long. Are they the longest tenured team in terms
not
of
a Soldier Field? They used to play at Wrigley Field, but they played at Wrigley Field until the 70s.
Gotcha. But in terms of the name, they've been the Chicago Bears forever, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And also, before we get started, I also wanted to say this, ladies and gentlemen, we do have 2 commercials, 2 ads. And the first one right here, I just want to get a little preview of what's going on with Justin Paul Sports and the upcoming college football season with sports betting. So just take a quick peek at this. That's right. You can go to winnable.com/Justin Paul Sports. Sign up for the college football vault. So what that is I'll have picks up there. It's monthly. It's $24.99 a month. We have an NFL one that we'll have a little trailer for later. And if you want to help support the show, just simply click on the QR code on the screen for Venmo, and that would greatly help the show so we could do things to get higher production values, things along that sort, and get the word spread. But, Bobby, if you want to go ahead and get rolling with our first team on tonight's SEC Week 2 of 4 preview, 16 teams in the conference now with a brutal expansion. But luckily for the SEC, they've expanded geographically correct, unlike the Big Ten, who's got teams in Washington and as far east as Rutgers. It's just kind of crazy to go coast to coast. But I think eventually we're going to see some of that stuff get eventually hammered out to where you're not going to have that kind of geographical disparities. Remember, they have to fund other sports too. It's not just football. They have to fund basketball. And I think eventually some of these teams are going to be losing so much money trying to compete with the NIL and football that they may have to drop smaller sports like swimming and things along that sorts. And it's unfortunate because you don't want to see that kind of thing happen in college athletics. There's more to college sports than football and basketball. Don't tell anybody, but that's just kind of how it goes. So
absolutely.
Who we got first up, Bob?
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and put the graphic on the screen, I do have a question for you before we get in. So you were just talking about the SEC and the geographic, consistency that the SEC has. If you had to choose, let's say, one team that is currently not in the SEC that makes the most sense to bring into the SEC, who would you pick? I think my pick would be a North Carolina, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's two that come to mind, right? North Carolina will help the conference for basketball. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm thinking bigger picture here, so North Carolina would help with basketball. But I think that the team that I would like to see added to the SEC, it would really be Clemson. It's either Clemson or Florida State.
Florida
Florida
State was
State,
the other one. Yeah,
but they got more tradition and history down south with their rivalry with Florida. It makes sense. Clemson though has established itself as a quality football program in the state of South Carolina. It's less likely that you would see that because states don't like to have monopolies on conferences, right? You want to have one in each, spread out a little bit. It's not very common to do that. So they're going to want to keep an ACC tie and an SEC tie.
for
And that
sure.
can make a difference in recruiting if you're in the state of South Carolina. But we seem to be veering away from that kind of thing. So I would think I would take Clemson over Florida State. Now, it'd be close, though, because I don't
I'd
think
love to see some Clemson SEC action. Um, but we'll go ahead and go into our first team, which is the Kentucky Wildcats. Not the best season for them. I don't know how the head coach lasted as long as he did, but they went 5-7 last year, 2-6 in the conference. Obviously, didn't qualify for anything postseason wise. They bring in Will Stein. A big question is this football team last year wasn't a disaster defensively. As you can see in the scoring defense and the total defense, they were, sub top 100, and then it was just the offense. They could not score 105th in the country and 101st in scoring, 105th in total. So, you get a lot of people, you bring in a couple of guys, Will Stein did. Do you think he's going to be able to turn this offense around quickly? I don't know. It's going to be one of those situations where I feel like I hope the leash is long enough for this guy to work at least for a couple of years, kind of similarly to how Mississippi State has treated Jeff Lebby over his past 2 years. How do you feel about the Kentucky Wildcats and the ability of Stein to kind of turn this offense around?
Well, we're going to see because Kentucky, for the longest time, like you said, they were built on a defensive trajectory, I guess is the way you want to say it.
Yeah.
But they do have some preseason All SEC players out there. They've got Willie Rodriguez at tight end. On the center, they had Colton Pierce, his second team All SEC. And they got good players on the defensive side of the ball with Ty Bryant, and another offensive lineman is Lance Hurd. So we do have some returning experience there. I think that you're going to see a vibe shift in Kentucky football. Their quarterback, Kenny Minchie, he's supposed to
Mm-hmm.
projected to kind of start for them. He's got mobility, he's got arm talent, and we're going to see how efficient he is. I mean, he's going to get some playing time, and he's got to play in a better conference than when Notre Dame's abysmal schedule. So there's kind of there's definitely an upgrade in competition, and that's a good thing. Going from Notre Dame to Kentucky is quite the transition.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
but the Wildcats, offensive line and their tight end, I think that's going to be good for them. I think they'll do a little bit. I think they'll make a bowl, I guess you could say, because it's really difficult with unproven first year coaches to arrive. I mean, it's not like Kurt Signetti, which is kind of the anomaly to,
Yeah.
that coach had great success at JMU and then goes into Indiana and doesn't year one, but Kentucky's schedule isn't patty soft like
Yeah,
Indiana.
we'll go over that in a moment with their schedule. It's very rough.
But I'll
And
say 5-7 is the floor, and like 7-5 is the ceiling.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that for sure. We'll go ahead and kind of look at their offense a little bit, and we'll talk about more of their players whenever we get to the next slide. But they're built really on trying to run the football. They did not have a great throwing offense last year, so you've got to have these inside zones. That's a great play against Georgia. But honestly, they were so one-dimensional last year, and it's almost kind of worthless to even show this power run here because I think this offense is going to be completely transformed. Is it going to deflate though when you have your first, Alabama in week 2, and then you get Texas A&M in week 3, two really really good defenses that you're going to have to test your new offense basically, and you'll see obviously you see this all over the place. Is this RPO bubble screen, great play against Georgia here. They had to rely on stuff like this. Teams that don't really have a downfield threat in terms of kind of getting the ball out deep downfield, they have to rely on just playmakers at the wide receiver position. And that's what they had to depend on last year. And this year, with the Stein offense coming in, it's just really hard for me to see it being successful right away. I think there's going to be a lot of growing pains. And like I said, Alabama, then Texas A&M right off the bat to test this new offense with Kenny Minchey, who unfortunately hasn't had a very, very little starting experience at Notre Dame. So we'll kind of go ahead and get into the additions. CJ Baxter is a guy that I've been high on for a long time. Injuries have kind of derailed his career a little bit at Texas. He's finally getting some sort of opportunity at Kentucky after kind of just falling out of favor at Texas. You got Nick Anderson, who's kind of another guy, same situation. He was at Oklahoma in 2023, I believe, and had 800 yards, 10 touchdowns. Then he kind of transfers away from there, goes to LSU, barely makes an impact there. You've got Javonte Barnes, who's a veteran presence from Oklahoma at the running back spot. So they've got a lot of really solid players. You mentioned Willie Rodriguez. I like him more on the blocking role as the tight end, but you see all these guys coming in. I mean, there's a lot of players to like here. But what are your thoughts overall on the offensive personnel, and where do you think this offense goes? Do you think it's a top 80 offense in the country? I don't know.
I think that's the thing. We're not going to fully know because we don't know how Stein's going to implement that offense with a new roster. So it leaves everything up to chance, right? Like you said, they're going to host. They get Alabama in Lexington and they play A&M. I don't know if that one's at home or not. I don't have the schedule here in front of me.
We'll go over that in just a moment.
So it's just kind of a wait and see. You're not going to have a lot of film on these guys, so it's inexperienced. But I think the main thing that has to be done there is a culture change, and we're going to see how much Kentucky's willing to spend on NIL for certain players. It's really tough to do a preview on a team that you just get all this lumped together, right? It's like you're going to have to figure it out, and Kentucky doesn't have that history of great football there. I mean, that Kendrick Law highlight you saw was fantastic. I think it's unfortunate that he had that injury. I think he's going to do something. I think he's going to quietly do something in the NFL, but we just have to wait and see. We're just going to have to see how the season plays out. I think if they go to a bowl game in the first year, that's a huge success for this team.
Absolutely. And what is the expectation for a guy like Stein coming in year one? Are they going to fire him year one if he wins 3 games? I mean, we'll go ahead and go into the schedule. I mean, it's tough. I mean, it is a tough schedule, and college football is all about momentum. And you go ahead and look. I mean, Youngstown, you got an easy opener for your home game, but then you got Alabama and then Texas A&M, and then you get the South Alabama game, but no game after that is really easy. I mean, even Louisville at the end of the year they're a good team. They're a good football program. So, I mean, you see 2 pretty solid wins here. South Alabama is not a slouch, but Youngstown State for sure a win. I'm seeing maybe they sneak in a couple of SEC wins, but who? That's the problem. We don't know what this team's going to do basically at all. It's just a bunch of unknown guys that are unproven that's going to come into a brand new offense where they're going to be deflated after week 3. And it's going to be Stein's job to keep them up and rally them through those first 3 weeks so that offense can keep pumping into the later weeks of the season.
Well, I'm kind of looking forward to it. I mean, this is a gauntlet for SEC, but I think there's some winnable games here. I think that some of the games that they could win, Kentucky, they've nearly beaten Georgia the last 2 seasons. They don't have them this year. And anytime at home. I mean, they got Alabama at home, they got LSU at home, they got Vandy at home, they got Florida at home, they got Louisville at home. So all those, I think that they can win almost all those games. I don't know if they can beat Alabama or LSU, but I think that they're going to be competitive. And I think as long as you're competitive in these games, it's year one. So it's just, you're just trying to really develop what you got. I don't think he's going to be hooked unless they get blown out 66-0 5 straight games in a row. I think that his job will be fine. I just think that we've got to wait and see exactly what Kentucky can do and how they respond to the coaches and things along that sort. So
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, last year, like you said, Georgia had them on the ropes, had Ole Miss on the ropes as well. They're a competitive football team, at least on defense. That offense just has to change a little bit. But we'll go ahead and get into my highlight player. And this is all fantasy, right? Obviously, the tight end there is going to be somewhat of a contributor at the NFL level because of the blocking prowess, but that's not what we care about as fantasy players, right? So I'm going to say CJ Baxter is the guy that I'm thinking of here. I'm not entirely sure if he's still got it. That's the big issue. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's a elite prospect at the high school level, 5-star recruit. He was a pretty productive as a true freshman, but injuries have just really hurt this guy. I think he's got a great 3-down skill set. He's got the pass catching ability. I think he's going to lead this backfield as long as he doesn't get hurt again. I think he's up for a true breakout. And with this identity on offense being run the ball, I think CJ Baxter is going to be the centerpiece if he stays healthy. And I'll kind of go into the film a little bit as to why I like this guy so much. I just need to see more explosiveness and just overall more physicality from him to really be all in on a guy like this.
Like you said, a 5-star recruit. So there's definitely potential there. I mean, he did go to Texas. So obviously he went to an elite school that does believe in his talent. And maybe this is the year where he gets to shine here. Expectations are a little bit lower, but he'll be playing, to potentially get himself into the league. He's got a fan base that's going to rally around him if he does great. Like, it's a lot lower expectations in Lexington than it is in Austin.
Absolutely. So the thing that I love about CJ Baxter the most, there's audio to these. I did not know that. But number 4 here, you'll see him in the backfield, is just his decisiveness. Just his decisiveness in his overall, in his vision. And I'll show you this now. You just see him, he's got the Le'Veon Bell type of factor to him, where he's able to just really find the crease. I mean, that's a very Texas did not do him a lot of favors in the run blocking department. And you just see him find the small crease. He can get skinny through the hole. And then this is a perfect example of what CJ Baxter is. Just find the crease, stops. He can stop and go really well. And I mean, that's really impressive stuff here, to be able to find that hole, change directions. And then this is what happens when everything breaks right for CJ Baxter. As you can see, versus Houston, he's got the ability to really ramp up his speed when fully healthy and get the touchdown. I think CJ Baxter, if he recovered well from those injuries and gets that burst back, he's got the vision, he's smart, he's a capable running back that can fall forward through contact, he has the pass catching upside. This guy can be special if he can really figure out the injuries and get his health back together.
Yeah, we'll see what Kentucky's doing. It should be interesting stuff for sure.
So we'll go ahead and segue into the next team, just kind of bulldozing through this. The Tennessee Volunteers, who, I mean, they have a really strange dynamic over there, because last year, you see it. They went 8-5, 4-4 in the SEC. They lost in the Music City Bowl. But Josh Heupel has a fantastic offense. Top 6 in the nation in scoring, top 7 in total offense. I mean, look at that, 466 yards per game in the SEC. We have to understand, guys, when you're putting up offensive numbers, when you're playing SEC defenses the majority of the season, that is insane. So what Ole Miss and Tennessee did last year is very significant. But then you look at the defense, and on the defensive side of the ball, they were just not in it last year. 91st in scoring defense, 92nd in total defense. And they've got a lot of questions too. They come off of the 28-30 Illinois loss. They ended up still scoring 40 points per game pretty much. And they've still got a lot of guys in that offense we'll talk about. But we just got to see what the new signal caller is going to look like in terms of the quarterback position and how it's going to end up looking, because they have a lot of the same guys. We just need to see what the quarterback's going to do. I think it's all down to what the quarterback can do for this, to see this team be successful, because they have the offense there. They just got to get that defense patched up.
Well, let's talk about the defense a little bit here. They brought in Jim Knowles. So it's a new defensive scheme going on there. And I think that his scheme will help be adaptable in SEC conference play, especially if they can get pressure up front without doing a lot of blitzing. That's kind of like the MO for any defense that's there. But let's talk about Tennessee as a whole. I think they're a top 25 team. I think there's between 8 and 10 wins for this team next year. 5 returning starters on offense. They've got 8 returning starters on defense with the new coordinator, new scheme. So you're not going to see those atrocious numbers in the 90s, I don't think, again this season. It's very difficult to be lousy from year to year or elite from year to year. So there's always a little bit of fluctuation in any kind of season. And like you said, Heupel and Halsey is the offensive coordinator there. They're big, creating explosive plays. They run that veer and shoot offense just like Mississippi State runs the same type of thing, where they got the players way out on
Wide splits.
toes. Yeah, and it's really more of a running style offense to try and create separation and spread everybody out. But I think the issue with Tennessee this year too is going to be the schedule. We're going to go over that in a minute here, but it is not pretty. It's like Kentucky's. But I do think that there's enough returning firepower after having a bit of an off season like they had last year, especially after going to the playoff the year before. Ever since they took their shirts off in Columbus, they ain't been right since. And you can't be getting smacked around by the Big Ten, losing to Ohio State and then losing to Illinois, and expect to have some kind of credibility. So we'll see them coming out this year. We'll see them coming out for sure.
And like you said, I'm going to go over this a little bit, because you see the wide splits here, and you can see the quick plays here. This is just a levels concept, really. It's just reading kind of. You've got the double unders basically here, same with these. And then these defenders basically have to make a choice. Because they were so good, they're going to make these safeties definitely respect the deep half of the field. So then you've just got easy work. So the quarterback's just reading these linebackers and saying, hey, are y'all going to move up? Well, I'm going to throw it here. If y'all move back, I'm going to throw it here. And that's exactly what happens in this play. And they do that a lot. They're playing space. That's exactly, you broke down the offense to a T, is they're playing space. Great ball by, I think, Aguilar was their quarterback last year, right? He's gone. Yes. So, and you'll obviously see, I want to show one more thing. This is not the best example of this, but if you see the box here, you've only got 5 guys in the box. You've got 6 blockers here. So you've always got the numbers advantage. That's why Bishop did so well last year, over 1,000 yards, 10 rushing touchdowns. And I don't really have any running highlights, but you're right that this is a running offense. It definitely can be, because look at the box there. You got 4 guys in the box, because look where you have to put your defensive backs and look where you got to put your linebackers, because they're all the way at the edge of the field. You see another, come on. Every team's going to be running this. That's Mike Matthews. We'll talk about him more in a little bit, but you play the outside of the field. You play the inside of the field. It's a guessing game. It is a nightmare to deal with. When this veer and shoot offense is working, it is a nightmare to deal with, especially if you can get the run game going. It's a nightmare. It's a really good scheme. You just have to be right up front in the trenches, and that's the thing I want to segue into. All five, all five of the starting offensive linemen have significant starting experience, and they're all there. I mean, they have a really good offensive line, probably one of the best offensive lines in the SEC. But we got to talk about the quarterback, right? Faison Brandon. He's a 5-star freshman. Do they give him the job? He's very mobile. He's got a big arm, like a lot of these kids coming up. He might not be a true dual threat, but he's definitely somebody that can get the ball moving with his legs, kind of like Joey Aguilar in a way. They've got a bunch of guys coming in: Ian Duarte, TK Keys, Javin Gordon, just a lot of guys. And then they have a bunch of people returning. Deshaun Bishop, who did great last year, 16 touchdowns. Then you got both of their 800-yard receivers coming back. They're starting tight end. And then 4 of their 5 starters are returning. And then they bring in another starting offensive lineman that has a ton of experience. Obviously, they lose Chris Brazel. Shout out Chris Brazel. I hate that he tore his ACL. I was really excited about Brazel in Carolina. Lance Hurd was the one that transferred over to Kentucky. Then Joey Aguilar obviously left. So there's a lot to like about this offense. I think it could be another top 20 unit this year.
Well, y'all see the hat on my head, but I have to agree with you that Tennessee should be trending on the up this year. For the quarterback competition, like you said, Faison Brandon, they got George McIntyre, Ryan Staub, Mason Phillips. They're going to have competition there. I don't think that job is solidified. I think we're going to find out early in the season. I mean, unless Heupel declares a starter, I really think that it's open. And like you said, when you got a returning offensive line, that's one of my 3 keys to when I'm trying to get a feel for when I'm making picks and doing my bets. Quarterback, offensive line, defensive line. And when you're returning players on the offensive line, you're able to set up your run game much better. Your pass pros are better. Your quarterback can call out and read a defense better because they'll have experience up front. So Tennessee's meters going up. I don't think that they're a playoff bubble team. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
And it pains me to say it. I don't like the Vols, but I do think that they're a playoff bubble team. And like I said, they could win. I think it's between 8 and 10 games is what they got going on for them this year. Could be the 11 seed. I don't see them playing for the SEC championship this year. It's always kind of tough to do that when you get a new quarterback in there, and especially with a complex scheme like what they run down there in Knoxville. So,
well, it just depends. Like for the veer and shoot offense, the quarterback can just distribute the ball and get out of the way. Obviously, if you want somebody to really take command of that offense and be at the most efficient that the veer and shoot offense can be, there is a level of skill that goes into doing that. But I don't know. I think Aguilar came in. He was an App State guy. That was not their pick. Whenever, obviously, oh my goodness, I don't remember who's the guy. There you go. Yes, Amaliava. He transfers out last minute, and they're kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place last year trying to figure out their quarterback, and they go with the guy from App State. And he led a top 10 offense last year with little to no experience in this offensive scheme. So it's been proven with this head coach that he can bring in a guy that doesn't have a lot of starting experience in this veer and shoot offense and make them successful. So I'm excited to see whoever ends up getting the job and see how they do.
Bobby Hill. Heupel looks like Bobby Hill.
So here is the schedule here. They start off, I think Georgia Tech's they lost Haynes King, who, guys, I know Haynes King didn't get drafted. I was shocked by that when he didn't get drafted. I thought he was worth like a 5th, 6th round flyer at best because he had so much starting experience. He was fast, athletic. Yes, his throwing motion is horrible, but you look at guys like Mahomes and stuff like that have worked out with that weird throwing motion. I was shocked that he didn't get drafted, but you get 3 teams back to back to back here. Furman, who's just an easy win. Then you get Georgia Tech on the road. They're a little bit of a tough team. They've been ranked the past few years throughout the season. Now, with Georgia Tech, they lose Haynes King. They've lost a couple of guys. I don't know how they'll look in terms of their division and how they're going to be in terms of an outlook next year. I think Tennessee could get that as well, even though their defense is good. Kennesaw State, shout out, they kind of came in and they've been a decent school since they've came in. And then obviously once you get into the SEC play, it just gets dirty, right? You get the Alabama, the Texas, A&M, you've got LSU, Vanderbilt. If Vanderbilt's even as good as they were last year, they have flash in the pan. Stay tuned. In a little bit, we'll go over them as well. But I think you're right. I think I see 10 wins here. I think they start 3-0, probably drop the Texas game, beat Auburn and Arkansas, probably beat Kentucky, South Carolina, Vandy. I mean, and then they probably get one of those other ones for a 10th win. I mean, yeah, I think you're on the money with 10 wins here.
Well, here's the thing. Every tough game on that schedule in the SEC is at home.
Yeah.
Texas, Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky, well, not Kentucky, but LSU. The home team, the home slate for Tennessee is very favorable. Now, I tend to disagree with this about Tennessee saying that Knoxville is the toughest place to play because I've seen teams just go in there and put the belt to ass on Tennessee over the last few seasons. But they do get Texas, Auburn, Alabama, LSU all at home. Their toughest road game is A&M. They're at Arkansas, they're at South Carolina, and at Vandy. So their toughest game is going to be at A&M, but I think when we go over A&M next week, I believe, I've got some hot takes on Texas A&M that you're going to want to tune in for. But there is a possibility that Tennessee's got a path to 10 wins. I don't think that they go unscathed in that schedule, but they do get the favorable matchups at home. Might be one where they slip on the road. Texas, Alabama, LSU are their biggest threats in the SEC, and they can win all those games. As much as I love Alabama, there's things about, they've lost the last two in Knoxville, so I'm not going to discredit them like that and be unreasonable, but they could absolutely, I just don't think that they're good enough yet to go through that schedule unscathed.
And I will say it's not like a haunted house to go into and play at Rocky Top, but I will say their fans are, I mean, they might have the best fan base in the SEC. I mean, they love them some Tennessee Vols football more than probably any other fan base. Alabama's a close second. I know LSU's always towards the top, but just the love that Tennessee has for this team, good or bad, has always just been really respectful in my eyes. But we'll go ahead and get into the spotlight player here. It's Mike Matthews. So obviously you could go a couple of different ways here, right? You could go with Mike Matthews, or you can get the guy that's, Staley, the other 800-yard guy. I think Staley's more of a gadget player, more of a college football player. I think he will go to the NFL. I think he will make a returns role somewhere in the NFL. But with Mike Matthews, former 5-star recruit, had 4 touchdowns, 813 yards last year. He's going to be an X wide receiver. He's got really good speed and route running. I think his skill set translates a lot better as a true NFL outside receiver rather than somebody that would just have to play a gadget role, kind of like a poor man's Jaden Reed, which there's so many of those guys in the NFL. You look at like Josh Downs, who is just like way better than a Staley is. And there's just so many just gadget guys that play in the slot that just get cycled through in the NFL all the time. So I think he's going to be their wide receiver 1. I think he's going to see some heavy targets. I think he does have a chance to surpass 1,000 receiving yards, and I think he's their best fantasy prospect. And do you have any thoughts on Mike Matthews before I get into the film? I really enjoy what this guy puts on tape. He's got the yak ability. He's got the downfield speed. He can catch contested catches. He's got everything, I think.
He does. Let's show everybody what he's got on film.
So we'll go ahead and get into the first thing here. So
before you start,
yeah,
it's storming here. So if I get cut out, just keep going and I'll log back in. I'm in Arizona and our power lines may go out. We get our storms are like all sandstorms and dirt storms. So just letting y'all know.
So you'll see the comeback route here. Now, look, I understand it's ETSU, but I want you guys to see the route here. because ETSU is playing very soft. He's got crazy acceleration, comes back to the ball, and then just runs over the ETSU guy. He's got a little bit of dog in him for sure. And then play action here, just is able to really kind of go in and run these routes and get open. Yes, I understand ETSU, but then you see the deep downfield speed at the spring game. I mean, that's like 3 yards of separation. He's probably a low 4.4s runner if I had to guess, and he's got good size as well. I mean, there's just a lot to like about him. He's got, I don't know exactly who I would comp him to, but he's got that outside frame that can play the Z slot if he needs to. You can
Is
put him
he
anywhere on the football field. You can even throw him on screens, kind of like a less explosive Nico Collins in a way, where people don't really think about Nico Collins as a yak guy, but he absolutely has some yak ability, and they kind of get him out there on screens from time to time. Mike Matthews is the same sort of player in terms of the same skill set. Obviously, I don't think he's as good as Nico Collins, though.
Wow, that's really pushing it. Nico Collins, we went over in our NFL talk about how high I really am on him, but we'll see what Tennessee does. When there's opportunities on the field like that, that's a great highlight in spring practice there to just make that throw and make the play. Separation, can run those routes. Those are NFL ready routes. Simple out routes like that, being able to understand, like you said, the soft coverage, can beat man to man. Big explosive player. If you're a Vols fan, you should be excited for him for sure.
Both of the guys, Staley and Matthews, I mean, they're both very good players. Now we get into probably the most perplexing team in the SEC.
Before we do that,
Yeah,
we're
go ahead.
halfway home. We're halfway home. We've got two more teams we're going to go over. We're going to go over Vanderbilt, and we're going to go over the Hogs here. But just a reminder on Justin Paul Sports that we do like to do our sports betting. I have a college football Edge Vault, and I also have another one here that y'all want to check out. Same price, $24.99 a month. I know that I've got 10 viewers right now, and I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I've already seen the trailer for the college football, but let's see what we got going on for the big time, baby. That's right, $24.99 a month for the college football and $24.99 a month for the NFL. I'll have picks up all the time. I'll have my NFL preseason picks up tomorrow morning. And the last one that I'm going to go through isn't formatted correctly. It's just a little goofy, but it's the last ad of the day, and that's for the CFL. So we're going to take one more peek at that as well.
We are playing Montreal in Montreal. Right. We are playing on the road. We are playing in a dome. We are playing in front of 65,000 screaming fans. Men, we got them right where we want them. We got them right where we want them.
We have got football coming out of the sides of our heads now. It's about that time where we're going to have college football kicking off here in about 2.5 weeks. We've got NFL preseason tomorrow for everybody. Starts off with Green Bay Packers are on tomorrow. And we got CFL in week 11. Those picks will be up tomorrow as well. So we're in the heart of everything that's going to get really good as, the most jam-packed sports month of the year comes up in October with Major League Baseball playoffs, start of the NBA, everything that goes on with there. And one side note, I'm a Chicago White Sox fan, folks, and they are in first place. And after the season they had 2 years ago where they didn't even win 40 games, this has been an incredible turnaround. So shout out to the Sox. But let's talk about the most unlikable team lately in the SEC due to their running there. It's something, there has to be something in the water in the state of Tennessee. Now, I don't know if it comes from the Smoky Mountains or Memphis, what it is that goes on in that horizontal state that just has them so full of who they are. I mean, their entire existence of a great season is beating Alabama. It's nothing else. It's not like they're loading themselves up with championships. Um, Vandy had the most Johnny Manziel on steroids quarterback without the wins, as the ISO would like to say, who was the same size that I was in seventh grade. But nonetheless, I just feel like Vandy wore out their welcome quick. Usually teams that have been lousy for a long time, they start winning and then they get really full of themselves like they've done. Like Indiana's another great example. Like we've arrived. Well, we're not doing a Big Ten preview, but if we looked at Indiana's schedule, I've seen high schoolers play tougher schedules than that. I'm just saying. But let's go ahead and talk about the Vanderbilt Commodores. What do you got for us, Bobby?
The main thing about Vanderbilt is, was 2025 a flash in the pan, or did Clark Lee really kind of turn this team around and have them on an upward trajectory, right? They went 10-3 last year, 6-2 in the SEC. You got to be a good football team to do that. I mean, yes, they lost to Iowa in the ReliaQuest Bowl, but you look at the offense, 8th scoring offense, 9th total offense, a top 10 offense in the SEC. I'm telling you guys, that is impressive. And then the defense was not a slouch either. They were a top 50 scoring defense, almost a top 50 total defense. I mean, they were good on both sides of the ball. Vanderbilt normally is a pretty tough defense anyways, but they really needed to figure out the offense. And Diego Pavia really kind of went out there and had some Manziel magic for a season. And now he's gone.
Yep.
He didn't even get drafted. He actually got waived by the Ravens, who picked him up off as a UDFA. So we really need to see what's going to happen with Vanderbilt, because Diego Pavia, like him or not, he was the soul of Vanderbilt last year. I mean, he was making play after play after play, putting his body on the line, just like Manziel was with A&M, right? So he's gone. Where does this Vanderbilt team kind of go from here? Obviously, they have the high pedigree, the highest rated recruit they've ever gotten at the quarterback spot this year. He's probably starting. I don't like freshmen starting in the SEC normally, but what are your thoughts on Vanderbilt? We'll go into their schedule later, but they're just a perplexing team. I think they're the most confusing team in the SEC.
Well, like you said, it's all about replacing Diego Pavia, right? So they got their 5-star recruit, Jared Curtis, who was committed, I believe it was to Georgia, and decided to decommit and go to Vanderbilt. Shout out to my boy Ben at work, who wanted me to tell everybody tonight that if there was a little nugget of information about college football, just to remind that he let me know. But I knew it was the case, but nonetheless, shout out to Ben. But we're going to see what Vandy does without him, right? There is a little sizzle to having a overly confident quarterback that can get things done, and there were obviously times last year you can't go 6-2 in the SEC without getting some things right. Like, I'm not just going to make fun of Diego Pavia the entire time, but nonetheless, he did take Vanderbilt from the bottom dwellers that they were. They did get into a big New Year's Eve bowl game. They've competed against Tennessee the last 2 seasons. But we're going to see what they could do with the running game. They got Cedric Alexander. They got McKalen Young, Jamazo Lassiter. Sorry, mispronounced his name. So there's a little bit of a strong foundation there to run the ball. I think that you're going to see Vandy do more runs than they are letting this freshman kid, if he starts, rip on the offense in the SEC. But we don't know. Like you said, is it a Clark Lee situation? We're going to find out. Cheryl returns for Vanderbilt. They got Cole Adams, Ja'Cory Thomas, Bryson Coleman. So they've got themselves some players down there. They've got the swag. Know that they've broken the mold of being losers to have back-to-back successful seasons. But the schedule, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, is going to be their Achilles heel. I could see anything between a 6-6 season and a peak maybe of 8 wins. That's kind of how I see the commies.
Well, let's go ahead and look at this offense a little bit. So Pavia had them rolling last year a lot. You know, they use a lot of motion. And Pavia, I mean, he didn't really have to stay in the pocket all that much last year. You know, all about the quick pass game for Vanderbilt. Obviously, they're a run-first offense. They've been that way for a long time now. But Pavia brought, very efficient passing to the Vanderbilt Commodores last year. And you're going to see him kind of rolling out off play action, and then look at that throw on the run. I mean, look, Pavia, yeah, he's small. That's probably his main reason for not being in the. He's not going to have a successful NFL career, in my opinion. But to be able to make this throw on the run, I mean, that's a perfect throw. Yes, I
To the
understand.
opposite side. To the opposite side. He's running to his left.
Absolutely. And that's in, and we'll see it closer here. I mean, this is just an insane throw. And we talked about the Gamecocks. They're not a slouch defense at all. They were a great defense last year. And that's exactly where you want to put it to give him a chance to make a play on the ball. Pavia brought a lot of really high level throws to the Vanderbilt Commodores. We got to see Jared Curtis do the same thing. Does he start? If he does, I'm a little concerned, right? Because you're going to have these defensive coordinators trying to eat him alive every single weekend because, look, that's what defensive coordinators want to do. They want to put the young guy on skates. And I feel like that's what's going to happen if you throw that kid out there. But obviously they got Ja'Cory Thomas from Old Dominion, Javante Connor out of East Carolina. I don't think he's going to be a big time contributor right away with, Eli Stowers is gone. They did lose a couple of other players. No, we're just talking about Diego Pavia, but they lost Eli Stowers, who was their, real big time tight end. They got Cole Adams from Alabama. He's kind of like more of a return man, but he can be used in the slot as well, and I think he'll get more opportunity than he had at Bama because, Bama's usually rocking an NFL receiving corps. So Cedric Alexander, like you mentioned, coming back. Junior Sherrill, who had a pretty good season last year, almost 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. Macklin Young, another running back. So they got multiple running backs that have some really solid experience. You see 9 yards per carry from Macklin Young. That's really impressive. And then you've got 13 starts for Cade McConnell, returning O-line starter, and they've got 4 of their 5 starters leaving. So, one of the big things that you talk about is offensive line, and most of their offensive linemen have left. Obviously, Pavia's leaving, Eli Stowers, Trey Richardson also goes to Louisville. So there's a lot of turnover on this team, and people aren't really talking about that. So I think that might hurt them a good bit, and I don't know if they see another 10-win season this year. I think they're a bowl level team for sure, but I don't know about a 10-win season again.
Yeah, I agree with that in full. 10 wins is out of the realm for this season, especially when you got, Vanderbilt still has those high academic standards to get in there.
Yes.
And they're like Notre Dame about that. But they do have some NIL money coming in there. I mean, the university is named after one of the wealthiest families on earth. So nonetheless, you want to take a look at their schedule for the upcoming season?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go ahead and look at the schedule here, I mean, it's not the worst schedule in the world. You do get Auburn, you did get Arkansas. I'm interested to talk about Auburn because they've been a really good football team in years past, and they've just been underwhelming. We'll talk more about them. NC State, I don't think's a gimme. I do think Delaware and Austin Peay are both gimmies. I think they could beat Arkansas. I think they could get Kentucky. I think they could get Florida. But
Oh,
I
man.
mean, the rest of them are like, Georgia on the road, Ole Miss on the road.
Yeah, it feels Ole Miss is at home. It feels like a 500 season. It does because you're way inexperienced on the front. You've got an inexperienced quarterback, and you don't have a whole lot of depth at wide receiver. You're still relying on your running game, so they're going to slow games down. It's not going to be as exciting. But there might be somewhere they can pull stuff out of here. I mean, I do think that they can pull out 6 wins. I don't know if they have a worse season than that, though. I don't think they have a losing season, but I think 500 is kind of where they sit.
Yeah, maybe 7 wins, but it's just they'd have to really be competitive in the SEC. But I'm going to talk about Junior Sherrill a little bit for their spotlight player. This guy is probably the person that I was the most excited about in terms of just overall ability. He's their leading receiver from last year. Like I said, almost 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. He's got proven production versus SEC competition. There's a lot of guys that are coming in from other Power 4 conferences that aren't SEC level they haven't proven themselves against SEC corners. This guy has. I think the route running and separation gives him a clear NFL pathway. I think he could be an easy Z receiver. And, I mean, he has a significant opportunity to raise his draft stock here. That he can go over 1,000 receiving yards if everything breaks right. I just don't see anybody else really taking that number one spot away from him. Do you have any thoughts on Junior Searle before I get into the film? Because I'm really excited about this guy for sure.
No, I think, like you said, he's wide receiver 1. I think there's some talent there to be seen. Let's show everybody what you're seeing.
So let's go ahead and go into the film here. Just got a couple highlights here just to keep things brief. But you see the ability here. Hey, that's what I like to see. Look, and then once he gets the ball in his hands, he's got those twitchy hips to where he can really change direction really fast. He's got the speed, obviously, as you can tell. And here he is versus Georgia State, getting open, makes the guy miss, makes another guy miss. He's very slippery in space. And then here he is versus Texas on the comeback route. And then he's just able to – the reason I picked this clip, because it doesn't seem like a particularly impressive clip on 2nd and 17, it's what he does as soon as he catches the ball. This is something that Malik Neighbors does better than anybody, is when he catches the ball, he can turn into a runner immediately. He can accelerate while changing direction, and this guy is very similar at doing that. Now, obviously not as good, but he's able to change direction and accelerate. He's able to turn into a runner as soon as he catches the ball, and that's why he's so dangerous in space. Obviously, you saw many clips there where he's making guys miss, and I think he'll do a lot for the Commodores next year, making people miss.
Should be good. I'm curious to see how Vandy fans feel about their team this upcoming season, so we'll see if they're still as boisterous as they were last year.
Well, now we get into Arkansas, unfortunately. And, Arkansas, I feel like Arkansas had a team. They had a team the past few years with Taylor Green, and their defense just can't figure it out. I mean, pretty much dead last in scoring defense and total defense. You see those numbers just absolutely atrocious. But you see the offense, 23rd ranked scoring offense, 13th in total offense. Taylor Green was really out there trying to do something. Super athlete. I'm really if they give Taylor Green some opportunities for Cleveland this year, I'm going to be really interested. I mean, he's not ready. He's not ready.
We don't know. The Browns have 75 quarterbacks, and they can't. They've just got a mess up there. They got Deshaun, they got Shador, they got Dylan Gabriel,
one of them's
they got
bound
Taylor
to
Green.
I
think Dylan Gabriel will get cut. But let's talk about the Razorbacks. The Ryan Silverfield era is among us. I saw him in an interview on the SEC Network. Talked about the little things that he was changing in the culture inside. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it was like painting walls and lights and stuff like that. And it's just little things like that psychologically that add up to show an attention to detail. I really like this hire for the Razorbacks. Okay. He's going to have an up-tempo offense that kind of sticks to what they've been doing. Mm-hmm. But like you were saying, the biggest split on this team is how offensively they were really, really great. And then defensively, they were just an abomination to football.
Yes.
But we don't know who's going to play quarterback. Is it going to be KJ Jackson? Is it going to be AJ Hill? I mean, Jackson's the dual threat kind of guy, and AJ Hill's more of your, pass standard, Ty Simpson pro style quarterback.
Yep.
And, but he's got a big arm, and that seems to be more the trajectory of what the offense is going to be there. But a lot of transfers here at Arkansas this year.
Absolutely.
They've got a great player on defense with Quincy Rhodes Jr. I don't know if you've seen anything on that guy, but he's an absolutely beast mode of a football player. But again, every team that we're talking about this week is like, this is like the worst, kind of the worst batch of the bunch. I'm not trying to knock Tennessee here.
Yeah.
But it's like the worst batch of the bunch because their schedule is bad. I don't think that Arkansas, their ceiling is a 6-6 season.
Yeah.
I think that's the ceiling, and that's being really, really generous to them. More like a 4-win football team, but they have upset ability to do that. But like you said, we got to see something out of that defense, because if you keep doing that kind of stuff defensively, you're just going to have to go based on like Quincy Rhodes and the rest of that defense. But man, oh man, the Hogs are going to be. Can you do that, Bobby? Can you howl like a piggy?
I'm not doing that. I'm not even attempting that. But I will say, you see, and I want to preface this clip with this is what Taylor Green brought to this offense. This is a 6'6", 240-pound man that is able to run faster than everyone on the defense.
He looks like Cam Newton right there.
He looks Cam Newton was not that athletic. Not compared to Taylor Green. I think he was a better passer, and he was better at a lot of other things. Taylor Green is probably one of the freakiest athletes I've ever seen in my life. And you just got that. I mean, he could punch you from 20 yards away. I mean, you see his arms go all the way below his knees. He's just a freak. Now, they lose Mike Washington as well, and we'll talk about him some more as well. But you see, kind of, this is Taylor Green. I mean, look at that zip. I mean, that's crazy. That's a 20-yard pass that he's getting just immediately downfield. They do like to run a little bit of a pro-style offense in terms of how when they throw the football. They had some super athletes. Mike Washington, super athlete. Taylor Green, super athlete. Omega Blake as well, very solid wide receiver for him. They're all gone. So you bring in A.J. Hill, Memphis transfer. You get Sutton Smith. Fun fact, Memphis beat them last year. And Sutton Smith actually had the game winner for Memphis to beat Arkansas. And now he's transferring to Arkansas. He had like 150 yards in that game. You've got Donovan Fapel from New Mexico State. Chris Marshall, who we'll talk about Chris Marshall as well. They've got a lot of guys coming in. They got two of their offensive linemen coming back. Braylon Russell, who I think might lead this team in terms of rushing yards. Jaden Platt's coming back. C.J. Brown. But they've got to replace – I mean, Mike Washington was 6'2", 230 and ran like a 4.3, 140. I mean, it's insane. Taylor Green, I think, has the fastest 40 time. He's a sub 4.4. It's like a 4.35 40. Fastest 40 time from a quarterback ever. That's what you're replacing. Whether they were good football players or not, I think they were both pretty good. But you're replacing super athletes that are like one of a kind, very rare to find. And that's going to be difficult, I think, for the Razorbacks to replace that type of athleticism.
Yeah, tough season incoming for them, but they do have the new coach. I think that there's going to be some growing pains here, obviously, but the transfers might help them a little bit. Year one is never just like that simple. Like a lot of people want to talk about Kalen DeBoer getting the keys to Ferrari, but what people don't realize is as soon as Saban retired, like a fourth of that team transferred out of there. And they had the portal where you couldn't get players in, and they had multiple portals, and guys like Julian Sayin walked out the door, and Caleb Downs. Like if those two players leave your program, if those two, I don't care what team you are, if you have Julian Sayin and Caleb Downs on your football team and they transfer out of there, it's going to impact your football team. It's going to negatively impact your roster. So it's really difficult to say a first-year coach can just come here and take the brand name and do something amazing with it. Now, Arkansas has had fluctuations big time of what they've done. There's been times when they're ranked and there's times where they've been atrocious.
Yeah.
And there's a proud history there. I do think Arkansas and Arkansas State should play every year. And they don't, but they should, just like Colorado and Colorado State do.
Yeah.
And Jonesboro, give it to them. Let them play. Let the Red Wolves play the Hogs, man. That'd be great for the state, great for the game of college football. They could do a road series. It's not that far from each other from Fayetteville. And the Hogs can definitely use the competition. But I do think that this is going to be, like you said, an upcoming season of struggle. The struggle bus is real. Slaughter and bacon bits here, as Funny Man likes to call them. I think that they're just going to be carved up and served for dinner.
Yeah, it's going to be a really, really rough time for them. But we'll go ahead and go into the schedule. And I know we keep saying man, this is a tough schedule. I think everybody in the SEC has a tough schedule because there's so many good teams. I understand the national championship has gone the way of the Big Ten for, a few years now. But, man, Georgia, A&M, Tennessee, Missouri, Texas, LSU, they're all going to be ranked teams next year. And maybe even a South Carolina. I think I'm a little bit higher on South Carolina than most if they can figure out that offense. But Arkansas has a tough road ahead of them. I mean, the Utah Utes are not an easy game, especially on the road. Then you got Georgia, A&M, Tennessee. I think they could probably get the Tulsa game. North Alabama is probably a gimme. So, I could see 5 wins here. Maybe. I don't lean towards 6 wins. I don't think that's possible here. Because of the amount of offensive personnel that they lost. They lost their starting quarterback, the starting running back, and then you're replacing them with guys that just aren't proven whatsoever. So, yeah, I'm leaning probably 4 to 5 wins max here.
I do think that you circle that game against Georgia at home. I'm not saying they'll win the game, but I think you're going to get a barometer for what this football team is for the SEC home opener on that week, right? They'll play North Alabama in week 1, and then they'll go on the road, up to Utah, which is not a bad football team. They're going to be having a new coach there as well, so they might be going and doing something, and maybe they can pull that one off. 2 new head coaches, one's its first true road test out of conference. Not likely because there's still some really great players up there at Utah, but Willingham went to Michigan. We're just going to have to see. But I think that let's just say for the sake of argument, they do start out 2-0, right? I really think that you're going to see that Georgia game, they're going to spit fire. And I think it'll be within 6 points. I don't, sometimes that just happens in this game. Like last year we saw South Carolina had a lead over Alabama in the 4th quarter. I mean, Ole Miss had Georgia on the ropes in the 4th quarter. I mean, that's obviously a much better football team than Arkansas is, but I'm just saying sometimes you can, Georgia struggled with Kentucky the last 2 years. So this might be a situation here. Georgia does not play elite football on the road. They don't. They just don't. It's kind of, puzzling to see them do what they do on the road. They just don't dominate like they do at home. So that's just the game. I think, like I said, September 19th, everybody's going to be wanting to see Ole Miss and LSU, but I'm going to keep my eyes peeled on that one there. I'm just curious to see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. But last but not least, let's go ahead and take a look at our last spotlight player. This is like the only solid picture I could find of Chris Marshall, and he looks like this is not normally what he looks like. He's not that big. He looks like a defensive lineman here. I think this is for some sort of photo shoot. You'll see his highlights. He does not look like this.
Let's go. Flex it, Chris. I said flex it.
Yeah, so last year at Boise State, this guy has kind of had a weird run. I mean, he came in in 2022, was a big-time recruit for Texas A&M, and he's just never really figured it out. Yeah. Last year at Boise State, 574 yards, 19 yards per reception. He was really kind of, popping off last year for them. He comes into Arkansas. I think this is an upside pick for me. I don't really know of anybody else that I feel comfortable with picking than Chris Marshall because he's got that elite pedigree as a recruit. He's got the explosiveness with that yards per catch, and I think he gets a chance to really turn his traits into production this year. And I think he's going to be their starting outside wide receiver, and we just got to see how A.J. Hill or whoever the quarterback's going to be gets him the ball. The big question mark at quarterback, and I think that's really what's going to make or break Chris Marshall. So we'll kind of go ahead and, I mean, man, he looks like a defensive lineman there. That is crazy. But you're going to see a play here, Boise State. This is your boy. I mean, he's a tall guy, but he's not like 250 pounds. I think he's like 205 pounds maybe. So he's not a gigantic guy, but he's just out there really getting separation. there's not much film on him. I've just heard really good things across scouting, training camp, not training camp, but spring for Chris Marshall. I'm curious. I'm curious how he. I don't think it's the traits that I'm questioning. It's all about whether this quarterback will be able to get him the ball because he does get separation. Hence why his yards per catch are really, really solid.
Well, he's taking a step up in competition going from the Mountain West to the SEC. So he needs to be commended for that. He's not scared of competition. And, again, when you got a new coach, you don't have film on anybody, and they got a new quarterback here. So he can go out there and pop off, or he can go out there and, run flat as can be. We're going to see, though. He's got the size. He's got production. Arkansas is going to need to throw the ball to somebody. Why not him?
Yeah, and it's weird because A.J. Hill is a freshman, basically. I mean, he started very little at Memphis last year, sub 60% completion percentage at Memphis as well. So I don't know if I'd put all my eggs in one basket with A.J. Hill. But, yeah, I mean, that's the last guy that I got. I'm excited. I mean, we kind of got all of the bad teams kind of out of the way. And the last 2 weeks are going to be absolute bangers. We've still got Auburn,
Shout out to JT, the Bama fan. He's a huge Alabama Crimson Tide fan. He's got Roll Tide Nation, does the Herb and Raj podcast. Huge Alabama stuff. He does follow me on X. He's promoted some of my stuff. So shout out to JT. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate that, bud. But, yeah, it's going to be quite the SEC season. We're getting ready to wrap this up here. Bobby, would you like to reveal who week 3 is of our SEC preview?
Yeah, I will go ahead and tell you guys now. So next week, kind of a banger. We're going to be going over the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Roll Tide.
The Auburn Tigers, the Florida Gators, and last but not least, the Georgia Bulldogs. So that'll leave us with
week 4 will be Texas, Oklahoma, Texas
it'll
A&M,
Missouri, Oklahoma, A&M, and
Texas.
I think that's the last ones.
Texas.
Missouri, Oklahoma, A&M,
and Texas.
And Texas. Yeah, that'll be a banger too.
Yep, we've done this every year, and then we're just going to kind of mix up the content the rest of the season. Bobby, do you have anything that you want to promote on your channel, sir?
Well, I just dropped a couple of videos, in light of Carson Beck's kind of crazy preseason game in the Hall of Fame game. Dropped a video kind of breaking down what he did in that Hall of Fame game, broke down who might be one of the sneakiest maybe not this year, but dynasty studs for sure is Antonio Williams for the Commanders. I think he's got a lot of juice to him. But just be on the lookout for some more film breakdowns. I think we'll probably do a quarterback next, whether it's Cam Ward or maybe a Kyler Murray in light of him winning the starting job. I knew that was going to happen all along. There's no way they were going to trot out J.J. McCarthy out there after how bad the offense was last year.
Well, I hope Minnesota fails in every single way possible. So,
but Kyler,
did you hear Ben Johnson today?
I did not. I'm sure he said something off the wall.
Hold on, let me pull it up for you. Let me pull that up, Jamie, as they like to say here.
Hey, look, he's a confident young man.
Okay.
That's for sure.
And you know what? You need to have that. But let me just tell you exactly what he said, because he came out and said it, as the young people say. He said it with his chest. So shout out to Ben Johnson for being his good, better, best mode. Hold on, I'm going to pull up the exact comment because he gave bulletin board material to the National Football League. He says, and I quote, Ben Johnson on his goals for 2026. I want more than the Super Bowl. I want to have the highest scoring offense ever, which happens to be the 2013 Denver Broncos. I know how many points per game they scored, which was 37.9, which is kind of crazy if you think about it for the NFL.
That was 56 touchdowns.
He says, I want to surpass them. I want shutouts. I want blowouts. Does this man realize that he's got the most mid under the center player and Luther Burden's already tore up, and that defense is going to be giving up 37 points a game this year? But good for you, Ben. It's good for you, Uncle Ben. We're going to see what you're about this year. I can't wait to kind of see how that 8-9 Chicago Bears team blows up this year. I've said it over and over, but I just thought that was really, really heavy in the stones for him to make a statement like that.
What do you say in response to that question, right? Like, let's say you're the head coach of the Titans, and they ask you, what are your goals? I mean, what do you say? You say, yeah, I'd like to just win 6 games, No, that's not going to go over well. What do you say to that?
Honestly, if I'm a head coach, I'm not being a bias when I say this, but I'm going with the Saban approach of working on the processes and what it takes to be successful as a football team, right? You don't want to just make these outrageous goals. You want to have those big picture, but to go out there, if you were to ask other coaches that question, not just Saban, but any of them, would any of them say something that bold?
No, I mean, Ben Johnson's a bold guy. I think he's earned to say something crazy like that. I don't think he's going to be able to do that. Caleb Williams is going to have to toss 56 touchdowns.
He's absolutely put a target on his back for the future Indiana Bears right there in the city I was born in Hammond, right there off the beautiful shores of Wolf Lake and the beautiful steel mills that will give that oxygen, just that British Petroleum refinery air that I breathed in for so many years. People just don't even know unless you're from there. But nonetheless, Bobby, thank you so much for your graphics. Thank you so much for your work. You guys go subscribe to his channel. It's Bobby's Big Board. It is one of the best channels out there. That is the logo. He designed that himself. He is a graphic designer. He is an IT legend. He is a father too. And with that being said, we will be here on Cover 2 Cash, episode 3 of our 4-week SEC preview. And we will see you guys next week, Wednesday, 9 o'clock Eastern. Thank you so much for tuning in.